Hello, this is Dr. Michael Gaeta. Welcome. I wanted to share with you just a few words about the current state of vaccines in the world, especially in the US and other countries that are promoting forced vaccination programs. So what's happening is the purported rationale, the theory meant to promote forced or mandated vaccinations, which means children being force vaccinated without the acknowledgement of parental rights, no informed consent, no healthcare freedom of choice, no personal bodily sovereignty. These are all being overrun in the name of a theory which has been thoroughly disproven as truly impossible, known as herd immunity. The CDC, which is a branch of the pharmaceutical industry, is and serves the pharmaceutical industry more than anything, claims, or now they have a new term called community immunity. And mainstream medicine, the propaganda we're hearing from the government, from mainstream medicine, mainstream media, is that you have to vaccinate to protect other people, and that if you fail to vaccinate, you're endangering other people. That's the theory. And this is a complete lie. This is a piece of simple, blatant propaganda, which has no basis in science or evidence. So let's look at herd immunity for a moment. Herd immunity is a theory that was developed in the early 1900s, which stated, based on evidence, that if about 68%, about 2/3 of a community or an area, population, had experienced a naturally occurring infection, like, say, measles, for example, back in the day, and that the other third of the population in that region that did not naturally contract natural wild measles would be much less likely to get it, because there were enough people in the community, about 68%, about 2/3, that had contracted it. And so there would be a community or herd immunity effect. And there is some evidence to suggest that that is true. Now, the pro-vaccine extremists, or those who are simply uninformed or misinformed, have claimed, inaccurately and without evidence, that therefore that same 68% of the community who receives a vaccine then confers that immunity or protects the rest of the community which has not received the vaccine or that illness. So this is an enormous leap of faith that has never once been proven in any type of credible research or science or studies. And so to say that the naturally acquired infections in 2/3 of the population therefore means that we need, that also is true of vaccines without going through the natural infection, is a complete lie. What's more, since the epidemiology or population studies on this don't add up, there is no herd immunity from vaccines, regardless of the percentage of the community that has been vaccinated, then they keep arbitrarily, they're just making stuff up, will raise the percentage of people that need to be vaccinated to protect the unvaccinated. And this is, just absolute fraud. It's an absolute lie. And so it used to be 68%. That was the initial figure when for a naturally occurring infection, never was applied to vaccines and never proven for vaccines. And then it was 70%. Oh, you need 70% to protect the rest of the community. Oh, no, you need 75%. No, you really need 80%. No, it's 85%. And it just keeps going up. And now the medical establishment, the latest lie, is that you need 95% of the population vaccinated to protect the community. This is the height of dishonesty. There is, even in fully vaccinated populations, and we have evidence of this, there are population studies where the 100% or 99% vaccine uptake, and there are still outbreaks because the vaccines obviously have variable effects in different individuals. But even 100% vaccinated population will still have outbreaks. And these are outbreaks, not epidemics. And so the lie of herd immunity is that it somehow applies to vaccines the same way it applies to natural infections. So that's kind of big part of the lie number one. Big part of the lie number two is that vaccines only do one thing. They do not improve immune response. They do not strengthen the immune system. They do not make you healthier. They simply do one thing, which is to temporarily stimulate antibody production, which is a very small part of our total immune response. They stimulate antibody production to a man-made pathogen or potentially disease-causing organism temporarily, typically for 2 to 3 years, at most 10 years. So if you acknowledge that fact, that vaccines do only one thing, which is to stimulate antibody production, not to the naturally occurring or wild pathogen, measles or mumps or what have you, whooping cough, but to a synthetic version of it for a few years, and that's it. So if you acknowledge that fact, and that is the fact, then you can acknowledge the fact, this is basic math, that the vast majority, at least 2/3 of the United States population, has had no vaccine effects for several decades without any return of any epidemic. So myself, I was born in 1969. I had all my shots by age 6. So by 1975, I was done with my vaccines. Now it's 2018. And all these decades later, I have had no vaccine effects for about 43 years. And that's true of the majority of the US population. And so there is no herd immunity. There never has been herd immunity. There never will be herd immunity. There never could be herd immunity from vaccines in any vaccinated population. I'm talking about the United States, but this applies to any vaccinated population. There never is, never was, never could be, never will be herd immunity because vaccines quickly wear off in their antibody stimulating effects. And so this is yet another proof that no vaccine ever eliminated any epidemic at any time in human history. All of the epidemics went away because of improvements in sanitation, hygiene, nutrition, living and working conditions, not vaccines. That's just a basic fact that the decline in epidemics happened before the widespread introduction of vaccines. And in the case of smallpox, we had the most smallpox. This is the original vaccine. We had the most smallpox in the most vaccinated areas, the least smallpox incidence, and the least smallpox deaths in areas where they did not vaccinate at all against smallpox and simply used quarantine, separating the infected people from everybody else. And so this is another part of the herd immunity through vaccination lie, is the simple fact that the vast majority of the population is unvaccinated, has no vaccine effects, and that's great, and has not resulted in the return of any of the epidemics of 100 years ago. So when somebody tells you that you have to vaccinate to protect other people, it's a lie. When somebody tells you you're being irresponsible for not vaccinating yourself or others, or you're endangering other people, it's a lie. And so you don't have to believe the propaganda. And the most important thing to do is to get active in sharing the truth, not believing the lies, and contacting your lawmakers to preserve and expand vaccine choice. If you believe the vaccines are somehow safe, effective, and necessary, despite complete lack of evidence, then you can go ahead and do that and go get vaccinated, vaccinate your kids, and what have you. That's up to you. But there must be a choice because vaccines carry very real risks. There's no demonstrated credible evidence of safety of individual vaccines, and certainly there's been no safety testing of the entire vaccine schedule as a whole. And so the main thing here is, since herd immunity through vaccination is a lie, then we must preserve and expand vaccine choice. So if you'd like to learn more about this subject, go to michaelgaeta.com, michaelgaeta.com, and visit the blog. And there's a variety of articles there on the vaccine subject, and also a link to my Quora page where I've dispelled a lot of mythology and myths about vaccines, cut through the propaganda that we hear every day in the media, government, and medicine, and just set the record straight. Also, to get active in preserving and expanding vaccine choice, please go to nvicadvocacy.org. nvicadvocacy.org is an excellent citizen activism website. It's not anti-vaccine, although that's a very defensible stance. It's about pro-choice and preserving and expanding choice, parental rights, informed consent, personal bodily sovereignty, and again, healthcare freedom of choice. So really wanted to nail this with you today. If you want more details about this, I would read the book Vaccine Illusion, written by a PhD immunologist, and there are many other books that would be very useful to look at, such as Vaccine Epidemic, Vaccination is Not Immunization, and many others. So thanks for listening, and again, do not believe the herd immunity through vaccination lie. That's all it is. It's just propaganda. And take a stand, not against vaccines, although that would be a defensible position, but take a stand for vaccine choice and informed consent. Thanks for listening, and take care. Bye-bye.